Here, and today we're ready to sew up the cold shoulder top, and this is the children's version. It's got the little pretty ruffle at the bottom, and it's really super cute, so I'm excited about it. But before we get started, let me remind you about a fun giveaway. And we give away $50 Ellie and Matt gift certificate every month to a subscriber, a random subscriber. And all you have to do is stop right now, subscribe to our channel, and after you subscribe, comment below and let us know what you like about our patterns, what you want to see out of our videos, what your favorite pattern is, just anything. Just comment below and you will be entered for our giveaway. So yeah, that's really exciting. There's a lot of patterns you can get with those $50. So we're going to go ahead and get started on this one. This is the cold shoulder again, and it's such a cute pattern for little ones. And yes, here we go. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our front piece and we're going to put it face up. And you can do your front piece or your back piece, it doesn't matter, you just got to put it face up. And then we're going to grab the other one, whether it be your back piece or your front piece, and we're going to put it right on top of each other, meeting at the shoulders. So we're going to put those shoulders together, and it's right sides together, so the right sides of the two fabrics have to touch. And then we're going to sew. I will be using my serger. If you do not have a serger and you want to use your sewing machine, that is just fine. Just remember that you're using a stretch stitch. Any kind of stretch stitch, lightning bolt or zigzag stitch, anything with a stretch. Make sure when you are sewing the shoulders together, make sure, and when you're sewing together, that both of your sides are together. Sometimes one will slip out and then you only catch the top one, so you want to make sure that both of them are underneath there so you can catch them and they don't rip apart. Okay, so now that our shoulders are together, we're going to go ahead and do our sides. So we're going to keep it inside out, and we're going to grab one side, put it out, and we're going to put the other side right on top of it, right sides together. And we're going to pin and sew. When you cut out your fabric, do you use rotary cutter or do you use scissors? I go back and forth actually, honestly. This one I cut with scissors, and I'm kind of like worried about it because the only reason why I don't like cutting with scissors is because then you have those edges, ragged edges. I don't remember. I don't know what it. But anyway, yeah, they're kind of like, you know, when you cut, like, have little, I don't even know what I'm saying, like little pieces hanging out and not straight. But I do have my cutting board set up in my yarn room, my sewing room. I call it my yarn room because before I sewed, I used to do a lot of crochet, and my room was full of yarn. Now it's full of fabric, but it used to be full of yarn. So we always called it my yarn room. Now we call it sewing room / yarn room. So if I call it my yarn room, if I say my yarn room, I mean my sewing room. I don't have two separate rooms, it's the same room. Yes, so it's set up on my sewing table, but sometimes I don't have a TV in here. And so sometimes I want to hang out with the family and watch TV, but I also want to cut fabric because, you know, I have to do two things at once. You know how that is. I can't just, okay, while I tell you the story, I'm going to go ahead and sew up the sides, zigzag stitch, stretch stitch, or cover stitch. I mean, not cover stitch, serger. What is the other name for the serger? It'll come to me later. So I'm going to sew it all the way down. But anyway, sometimes I like to sit and watch TV with my family. So I'll bring just like a cutting mat over. To the living room, but We have like a really plush rug in the living room because I just love rugs. Okay, I love hardwood floor, but I love rugs on top of hardwood floor. Is that weird? Anyway, so we have a really plush one in the living room. So, I don't usually use my rotary cutter when I'm in the living room. I use my scissors. That's okay, because I always think I'm using my serger, and the serger will eat those squiggly edges and make it nice and straight. So that's good. That's one of the reasons why I really love sergers, a little bit more than just a sewing machine, because it helps get those edges nice and together. So if you can save up for a serger, I would say it's a good investment if you like to sew a lot, like I do. All right, so now we're gonna turn this right side out. Here's our top, it's coming along. It's going to be beautiful. I love this fabric, it's so pretty. Okay, so what we're going to do now that we sew on the sides, we're gonna go ahead and grab our sleeve. Oh no, actually let's do our neckband. Neckband. I'm gonna grab my neckband and I'm gonna meet it right sides together. Well, before we do that, I learned this new trick and I always forget to do it because I just learned it. But I'm gonna do it today because I remember. We're gonna fold it wrong sides together first and give it a memory crease, because it's easier to give it a memory crease while it's open than after you have already made it on the round. So we're doing a memory crease before, fold it in half, do a memory crease, wrong sides together, and then we're gonna put it right sides together and we're gonna sew it at the raw edge, the short raw edge. And I like to trim the serger tails. You don't have to trim them, but I like to get them out of the way. And the reason why I do trim them is because they're gonna be sewn into the neck, so it's okay to trim them. They're not gonna just come apart. So now we're gonna fold back over that crease. See how easy that was? Because you will have to fold it again after you sew it together. And if you don't do it beforehand, you can still do it afterwards, but it's a little bit harder. So when I saw somebody say that, I'm like, oh, what a neat tip. So now I'm doing it. Thank you for whoever was the one that posted that. Okay, so now I'm going to go from the back, I'm going to go all the way to the front. And I like to clip a little bit right here and then put a pin. So it's just a little tiny clip. You can barely see. That just shows me where that half mark is. And I'm going to do the same thing to the sides, because when I am attaching the band, when I remove the pin, I want to still know where my quarter points are. And if my pin is not there, how do I know? Because I have a notch, so then I can keep it even. Okay, and then I did the same thing to the sides. I made the front and the back, and I went to the sides, and those are my quarters. And the reason why I'm putting pins on there is because I'm gonna have to pin it to the neckline, so I figure I just go ahead and put them on there already. Okay, I'm gonna grab my neckline and we're gonna quarter that as well. And I'm meeting the shoulder seams. I'm going to the front, and I'm gonna do a little mark, meeting shoulder seams again and going to the back. And then I'm meeting the front and the back. And now I'm wondering, like, how big is this gonna be? I wish it was big enough for me, but it's not. It's not big enough for me. All right, we're going to the side. Now, don't use your shoulders as your quarter marks, because as you can see from this top, as I'm going out to my quarter, I'm measuring it. It is about 1.5 inches away from the shoulder seam to the front. And if you go by the shoulder seams, that means that's like 3 inches less that you'll have in the back. So it'll be less that you have in the front. So you have a ton in the back and you have ripples, and in the front you'll be like super stretched out. You don't want to do that. Well, I shouldn't have done that. I have an undershirt on, it's fine. So anyway, now that I've quartered all my neckline, I'm gonna go ahead and grab my band and put it over my quarter spots. Match my quarters. Match them quarters. Where do you do most of your sewing and cutting? Like I said, I have this room. I am so grateful for this room. It used to be our spare room, and then I took over. And first it was full of yarn, and then I learned to sew, and now it's full of fabric. But when I'm by myself, I'll come in my room and I'll sew in here. But if my family's home, I don't like to shut myself in this room. I always feel like I want to be with my family. So I always go out in the living room, and my husband's very supportive, so he doesn't get angry at me when I have fabric all over the place. So yes, that happens quite often. So I'm gonna go ahead and sew, and you're gonna have to stretch. As you can see that the top is longer than the band, so you're gonna have to stretch that band as you sew, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and start. I always sew the band face up because I want to see how much I'm eating, just because my band is smaller than my shirt. And I do just a couple stitches first just to make sure it's caught by my serger or my sewing machine, and then I pull and make sure all 3 of my layers are even, and then I start to sew. Let me tell you this too, make sure as you're going that you pull all the other fabric out of the way. If you don't pull all the other fabric out of the way, it might get caught when you're sewing it, and that's not good. Especially if you're using a serger. Almost there, just one more left. And then I usually leave a tail, and then we'll sew that in later. And the way I'll sew that in is, I'll tell you now because I don't want to forget. I'm making sure that I cut everything. And yes. So the way I do it is I put it right over the seam, right over that seam allowance right there. And then I do a zigzag stitch on top of that seam on my sewing machine. Well, I forgot that the bobbin is set on blue because I was just using it for gathering, so it didn't matter, but that's okay. But see, you can see right there is where I sewed it in, and you can't really barely tell. Now you gotta go ahead and steam those wrinkles out. And let me tell you this. Whenever you have a little bit of a wrinkle, a lot of times it's solved by steaming. With this, I will probably still have a little bit of a wrinkle right there, and it's just a drape because I am using this is a rayon spandex, I think, so it's very, very thin and flimsy. And then I've got cotton lycra for my band, so it's more stiff. So it'll give it more of the drapey look. So it kind of looks. I ironed out the. If you can see, I ironed out, so you won't really have much of a ripple. Like, you iron it out, but it's more drapey because of the fact that the neckline is a little bit tighter than the actual top. I don't mind that look. I don't think it looks bad. I think it looks fine. I think it's like the neckline is fine. It's just the ripples at the bottom. So I don't mind that. But that's something that you have to take into account when you're using two different materials. If you're using two different fabrics. If you're using one that's stiffer and then one's lighter, just know that if you use the stiffer for the band, the lighter is going to flow more, and the band is going to be tighter. So you want to account for that. So if you don't like that, then you want to stick with the same weight material. So like fabric. So like if you're using cotton lycra and it's stiffer, because cotton lycra is a little bit stiffer, you might want to stick with something stiffer. If you're using French terry, which is it's not as much stretch. I'll say for neckbands with French terry, depending on how much stretch it has and how big the neckband is, I would probably use cotton lycra because it's stiffer. It's got the same kind of stiff, but or I guess you could use. I've used French terry for bands, but you have to be very careful because French terry doesn't stretch as much. If you're using double brush poly, you can use the same double brush poly because double brush poly has great recovery. I actually love double brush poly. Okay, let's go on. Sleeves. I am not going to be doing the elastic at the bottom. I'm just going to be hemming. So if you're doing the elastic, you would grab your end of your sleeve first right now, and you would place the elastic right on top of it. Let's pretend this is the elastic. You would place it right on top of it like so, just right on top of it. And you would pin it right at the middle, and then you would stretch it the width of the sleeve and pin at the ends. You would go in with a zigzag stitch, or with your serger, if you want to go ahead and serger onto the shirt, stretched out the width of the sleeve. And then after you sew it on, you will fold it right over like so. Steam. I'm pretending my elastic's already on there. Steam, and then go ahead and top stitch it on. And then we move on to this step. Okay? But I'm not doing the elastic, so that's why you don't see the elastic on this one. So I'm just gonna go ahead and fold it right sides together and sew my sleeve together. And we're gonna do the same thing for the other sleeve, but I'm just doing this one sleeve, and then I'll do the other one. But we're gonna do the same thing for the other sleeve as well. I'm gonna sew that sleeve together, right sides together at the raw edge. I'm doing my serger. Overlock, that's what it's called. All right, here it is. My sleeve is together. If you want to, you can go ahead and hem that sleeve if you were just thinking of hemming it instead of putting the elastic, but I'll hem it later. That way you all don't have to sit there and watch me hem. Okay, and there's my sleeve, and oh my goodness. Did you see that? See, I get distracted by you all. I didn't sew both sides together. Remember I told you you need to be careful and sew both sides together? I didn't. I wasn't careful. But that's okay. I can go back and fix it. Then I'll just have to tuck in those tails. And I'll tell you, if you're working with this kind of fabric, this is the spandex fabric, which is really thin and kind of, I mean, it's great for wear. It's like super thin and airy and drapey. But when you're sewing it, you do need to be careful because it likes to be slippery and get away from you.
But I do love showing you all my mishaps because I want you to know that sewing is for everyone. And even though we make mistakes, that's okay. That's how we learn, by making our mistakes. And I don't mind making mistakes. I'm learning. I'm learning every single day. And so don't be hard on yourself if you do make a mistake. And if something doesn't turn out as great as you wanted to the first time, just give it another go. It's going to turn out better the next time. And wear it proudly. All right, y'all. It's getting all, you know, mushy there. And then my camera decides to drop you all. But anyway, as I was saying, it's okay to make mistakes. And then we can fix them. And that's why I like to show you my mistakes, because that's just real life. And I am a real person and I make real mistakes. So here we go. We're going to continue now that I closed up my sleeve. I'm going to grab my seam where my seam is on my sleeve, and I'm going to meet that up with the seam that is on the side of my shirt, the arm side right here on the armpit area. I'm going to meet those two together. And when I sew the sleeve on, I'm only going to sew it halfway, obviously, where that tip ends on my sleeve. I'm going to go that all the way up as far as it'll go. I don't stretch it. I just put it right on there, and it only goes to about half of the arm. Okay, because the rest is going to have the band. So I do the same on the other side. And then we're going to go ahead and sew that on. So let me show you. It's only like, it only goes to like half. Okay, and then we're going to sew that on. You don't have to stretch. You will stretch the band, and the band is what will bring it together. And I will trim that serger tail down because the band will come in and take over that. Okay, so here it is. My one arm is attached on to just part of it. Now we're going to grab the band, and we're going to do the same thing that we did to the neckband. First, right sides together. No, wrong sides together. I'm sorry. Wrong sides together, and we're going to steam it. Give it that crease, that memory crease. Then I'm going to grab it and put it right sides together and sew that raw edge. And then I'm going to fold it right back out. Wrong sides together again, just following along that crease that I already made earlier. It's kind of nice that it's there because it's easier to fold when it's already there. And I'm going to pin the edge. And then I'm going to go to the front and quarter, just like we did the neckband. And then to the sides. Sides, sides, sides. And pin. And honestly, when I lost you, I went ahead and did my other sleeve because I said it needs to be done anyway, so I might as well go ahead and do it while I'm out here. So there, I'm gonna grab where the shoulder meets. I'm gonna go out to the back and find my half, and we can use the two sides as my quarters because they should be the same length. So I'm gonna put this seam. I like to put it right at the shoulder seam, so it kind of is like a continuous seam. But you can put it wherever you want. If you want to tuck it under, wherever you want to put that seam, you can put that seam. And now we're just meeting those quarter points again, like we did with our band, our neckband. Raw edges, right sides together, and we're meeting those quarter points. like we did with our neckband, and then we're gonna sew it on. Okay, I like to start at the side. It doesn't really matter where you start. Here we go. Make sure you pull as you go to the next one. And remove everything out from underneath. And try to make sure to catch all of it, like I did earlier on my sleeve. One last one. And it is on. We're gonna steam it. And we're almost done. Look at how cute that's going to be. Now all we are going to do is our ruffle at the bottom. If you're not doing the ruffle, all you have to do is hem and you're done, done, done. Look at how cute that is. That is adorable. If you're doing the hem at the bottom, we're gonna grab the ruffle at the bottom. We're gonna grab this ruffly part, open it up, and we're gonna meet the two together. Two raw edges. One raw edge right here. And then the other raw edge. Make sure that they're straight, they're not crooked. And then I'm going to go ahead and sew those raw edges together. Edges are sewn together. Here comes the fun part. We're going to gather this whole thing to be the width of the bodice, the width of the bottom of this edge. We're gonna gather it to be the width of our edge, of our bottom edge. Oh, my ear is itchy. Okay, so this is what we're doing. I am going to do a long, I'm wearing my Tresbel dress. It's got pockets, look how cool it is. And it's long, so I just have it gathered on my lap because it gets kind of hot in here in my room. If you've watched any of my other videos, it does get a little hot in here. I'm hoping it gets cooled off soon. But anyway, so I'm going to gather. I'm using a basting stitch, long stitch, and I'm going to go all the way around. And sometimes I do the serger method of gathering. Sometimes I do the don't know what I'm doing method of gathering. That happens when you have run out of bobbin, like I just did. I ran out of bobbin thread. Oh, my earring just fell off. I am falling apart. Yo, what's going on? Alright. I'm using pink thread for my bobbin because that's what I have right now. And since it's just a gathering stitch, I'm going to rip it out anyway, so it doesn't matter. Alright, here we go again. I'm just going all the way around, doing a stitch, just a straight stitch, and then I'm going to gather it the width of the bottom hem. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll keep going, okay? All right, friends, I've gathered the width of my bodice, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to meet, and I made sure that it's kind of, you know, even. I'm going to grab my ruffle and kind of just put it over my bodice and meet right sides together where my seams are on the sides. Here's one seam, and then I'm going to meet the other seam. And then I'm going to pin these ruffles, these gathers on. So I'm just pinning the raw edge. Pinning, clipping, whatever you do. I have pins. I know. I think more and more people are now doing clips because they're easier. But the thing is, I have all these pins, and I just feel like they'd be mad at me if I didn't use them. If I got clips all of a sudden, they're like, "What? We've given you so much of ourselves, and now you just trade us in for pins, for clips. How could you?" And so then I feel bad. So no, honestly, the thing is, I am cheap, and I do have all these pins, and I say, why spend money on clips if I can spend money on fabric? Yes, I am that type of person. I'm the type of person that doesn't like to spend money on the things like clips, pins, undergarments. Make my own stuff. This is why I make my own stuff, because it's so much cheaper, right? People tell me all the time. I mean, I think sewing is, it's a hobby, you know, and obviously you can do it for, you can be very frugal with sewing. You can. There's different places you can find very inexpensive fabric, but if you are using nice fabric, if you are trying to make something good for you that's going to last, it really isn't the more inexpensive option. Really, there are so many stores out there you can go buy clothes for next to nothing, that it's like sewing sometimes isn't the cheapest way to go, but it's the funnest way to go. And yeah, so I love it. But anyway, so I am on a budget, so I don't like to spend my money on things that to me don't really matter. And I know that will make it so much easier for me, I know this, but I'm like, I'll spend that money on fabric. Probably isn't even that much money, and I'm just making my life difficult. See how I made my life difficult? I did pins on the outside on this side, pins on the inside no, just one pin on the inside, 2 pins on the inside. I'm gonna move them back because when I go to sew them, they're gonna be annoying me. They're gonna try to get behind the serger, and I'm not gonna see them, and I'm gonna eat them, and they're gonna break my serger, and that will not be fun. Okay, so now that they're all pinned to the edge, you see that right sides together, the right side of the ruffle with the right side of the top. We're gonna go ahead and serge, and I always like to start in the back. So I'm just serging them together. Make sure that you catch both the ruffle and the shirt and nothing else. make sure that your shirt, the other part of your shirt is out of the way. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this on very slowly. I'm going to sew this on and then we'll come back to see the end results. Alright friends, my top is done. Look at that ruffle at the bottom, looking so good. And now all you have to do is hem. And honestly, the ruffle, since it's knit and my raw edge looks fine, I might leave it raw. I might not hem it. So this is up to you. You have a hem allowance of 1/2 inch, so that you can go ahead and hem it, or if it's good on the length and everything like that, you can leave it because it's knit. I do have to hem my sleeves, so I'll go ahead and hem those because I don't like to leave sleeves unhemmed. But other than that, our top is done. How cute is this thing? I hope you like it. I hope you had a great time doing this sew along with me. Please come and see us over on Facebook or Instagram. The information is below. Post what you're making. Come see what everybody else is making and join our fun. We also have sew-alongs that we do on our Facebook page on a regular basis. And then we sew them actually live together. Well, not really live, but daily together. And so it's really, really fun. But I hope you had a great time. I hope you enjoyed it. And let me know if you have any questions, comments, concerns. Comment, share, like, and subscribe if you haven't. And I'll see you all next time. Bye!